Hey, Joe Rieger here. How are you? Welcome to Faith, Hope, Love, and Laughter and our webcast. Glad you could join us. As you can see, I've got my festive tropical shirt on. Bright enough for you? Got this down in St. Martin. I'm celebrating that my family is soon to be going on a tropical vacation. We're getting away from wet, cold, icy Connecticut and going down to Playa del Carmen, which is south of Cancun. It's going to be an all-inclusive fun in the sun on the Caribbean week, and we're psyched. All right, today's message is all about being positive. It's about being positive even during life's difficult times, to see God's hand even when it looks like He's turned against us or He's not with us, looking for the blessing. I got to tell you, I used to be the king of negativity. I always saw the glass half empty. And the problem is that with all that negativity, kind of brought misfortune upon myself. It hurt me at work. It hurt my relationships. You know what? After a while, it starts to affect your health. It can lead to depression and all kinds of physical ailments. And when we start to feel sorry for ourselves and, oh, poor me and everything like that, I mean, nobody wants to be around us. Nobody wants to be around a negative, self-pitying person. We end up alone. Now, that's not how God wants it for us. We need to be positive. We need to speak positive. And as Christians, we have so much to look forward to and so much to be grateful for. Well, that leads us to our lesson today. And it comes from the book of Ruth. All right, now, the cool thing about the book of Ruth is that it's the only book of the Bible named after a woman. And the cool thing about it, it's not even an Israelite woman, it's a Moabite woman. Now, the Moabites were horrible pagan people. God didn't want the Israelites to have anything to do with them. They even sacrificed their children to Molech, their god, okay? That's how bad it was. But this is a story. And I don't have time to tell you the whole thing. It's only 4 chapters. I really suggest you read it because it's great. But I'm going to start to tell you the story. You know, there was a family in Judah, and it was a time of famine, and they decided to leave Judah and go to Moab, and that's where they were going to live. So the husband and the wife lived there for a while, had a family, had 2 sons, and then the husband dies. The sons decide when they get older to marry 2 Moabite women, and then they die. So now here we have Naomi, who lost her sons, lost her husband, and she has 2 Moabite daughters-in-law. All right? Now you can understand her sorrow and her grief and being bummed out about that. I mean, who wouldn't blame her? But she goes on too far. She starts to blame God for everything. She starts to say that He's left her, that He's forsaken her, that He's done her this great injustice. But what we don't know from the story and what the Bible tells us is, you know, how much of this is their own doing? Number one, did Naomi and her husband even pray about going to Moab when the famine struck? I mean, I don't know if God wanted them there in the first place. And did He want her sons to marry Moabite women? We told you already that God didn't want intermarriage. That was part of the old covenant, because they would be corrupted by the pagan practices. But Naomi, on she goes, and, you know, nailing God and complaining about everything. And in this passage, we can see she's just about to tell her daughters-in-law, you know, why don't you stay here and I'll go back to Judah, my homeland. But you can hear how dramatic and self-pitying she is. I'm going to pick up in Ruth 1, verses 11 through 13. But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and they gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Why would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me." Oh, boo-hoo-hoo, Naomi. You know, notice how quick she is to blame God for all her troubles. And we all have a tendency to do this sometimes. Things don't go our way, we get mad at God. First thing we do. Now, if you jump down to verses 20 and 21, the pity party continues. And here, she's on her way back to Bethlehem, where she's actually entering Bethlehem, and the people, maybe some of them her relatives, recognize Naomi and call out, and they say, this is verse 20, "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara." Now, Mara is Hebrew for bitter. "Because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. I mean, talk about a complaining, whining, self-pitying bit of dialogue. Maybe there's a lesson here for us. You know, whenever we're feeling, geared up to grumble or feel sorry for ourselves or going to be negative, maybe we should read those two passages. Because she sounds so terrible, and we don't want to sound like that. And I'm sure we all have at times, one time or another. All right, so maybe that's a good thing. But you know what really gets me? Is that nestled in between those two whining scriptures that I just read is a blessing and a half that God had blessed Naomi with, and she didn't even recognize it. The blessing was right there. That's right. You see, Naomi told her two daughter-in-laws, why don't you guys stay here, all right? And I'll just go back and go to, Judah. And one daughter-in-law, Orpah, decided to take her advice and stayed in Moab. But listen to what Ruth had to say. This is now in verse 14. Here's the blessing that totally was overlooked by Naomi. At this they wept again. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. Look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. But Ruth replied, don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me ever so severely if anything but death separates you and me. Wow. Talk about love, talk about loyalty, talk about devotion. Most people would kill to have a daughter, a daughter-in-law, or a friend who was like that. Yet Naomi missed it. She was too wrapped up and self-focused on her own problems that she missed the fact that she had this wonderful person that God had given her. And you know what happens? I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story. I really want you to read it for yourselves. But God goes on to bless both Naomi and Ruth in ways that never seemed possible. All right? So when things are at their very worst, when it looks like God's abandoned you or he's not paying attention, trust him. Persevere. He's a God who can be trusted. He's a God who wants to provide for you and bless you. Now, you might have to wait on this because you might not be ready. Your heart might not be ready. The timing might not be ready. But God waits to bless you. And we got to have the right attitudes and the right frame of mind. And we need to be positive and grateful. So as we go into this next week, think about this. We don't want to be Naomi's. We got to knock off the negativity, and we got to look for that blessing. God could make lemonade out of the worst lemons, okay? And when life deals you a bunch of lemons, look for the lemonade. Look for the blessing that God has in store for you, because he is a good God. All right, you take care, and next time I come back, I'll be all tan. God bless you.